General Electric. Norfolk and Western. Norfolk and Western. Norfolk and Western. Sounds like a steam engine.
Guys.
Who says you scheduled railroading?
Well, there's 2 tracks, so it's probably the other track.
There it is.
Use their attention. Make them blow the horn.
I don't think they can see us.
Once they get closer, we'll do it, okay? The train's coming. We're going to blow the horn. We're going to make them blow the horn. Oh, wow. That's a lot of diesel. That's a lot of diesels. How many are on that train?
I see 3.
There might be...
I saw a Union Pacific train coming through here. Not through here, but like the Jersey Pike Railroad. Is that an SD70 leading? Oh wait, no, that's General Electric.
Hey, 2 Union Pacifics.
Imposter! Hey look, it's an SD70.
My name is Zach. I'll be your conductor and narrator for this journey back in time, your voice in the ceiling. Your trainman today is Caleb, and your engineer is Joseph. Now, for those of you that have not ridden with us before, do keep in mind that we are a historic railroad, not a scenic railroad. This trip is not meant to be scenic in any way. We're going to be focusing on the history of this railroad and our equipment rather than what you see out the window.
Hey, look, it's 9,000. Wait, no, 5,000.
I love that Valdez.
Hey, who else remembers Union Pacific 9,000?
The ET&G was merged with a number of other railroads over time to eventually become the famous Southern Railway in 1894. And the Southern would
that
continue
old
to use
train
this
style come through here. There's a bridge somewhere around here. Like, see that little black concrete? That's where the train would come. That's the shed right there.
Grand Junction up on that embankment, and that line is still used today by the Southern Railway successor, the Norfolk Southern Corporation. Now, on the left side of our train, you'll see
There's
gravel
old
road.
bridges right there. That's why there's rusty
now.
now.
For the original 1859 right-of-way during the Great Depression. As an example of this flooding, on the left in just a moment, you'll see a set of tracks and a sign laid down on the old right-of-way. And next to those will be a tree with a yellow line painted on it. That yellow line represents the high water mark from the Great Flood of 1867.
Oh, there they are.
At 9 feet above the track, it explains why this line had to be elevated.
The bike road goes all the way back to Chattanooga. You have to ride that entire distance of the bike road.
We're now crossing our first bridge over South Chickamauga Creek. In the water below to the left, there's a set of stone piers. Those stone piers mark the site of the original bridge. On top of those stone piers would have been a wooden decking that the rails would have run on. Now, the original bridge in that location was made entirely of stone, and it was washed away in a flood in 1861. Unfortunately, an engineer did not see that that bridge had washed away in time. And,
Bandy tender.
Well, let's just say he and his train went
Boxcar.
for a swim.
Passenger car.
Bulkhead flat. On the left of our train, it is sitting on a siding known as McCarty siding. And that is a remnant of the original double tracking on this railroad, because this road was double track, having two sets of tracks running in, so trains could run in
6910 tender and 630s
But this siding is the only remaining section of that original double tracking. When the line was donated to us, all the track had been ripped out. We had to relay the line, and we only laid a single track rather than the double track. We're now crossing our second bridge over the Western and Atlantic Railroad. This railroad you see below us here was the first railroad into Chattanooga, being completed by the state of Georgia in 1850. That line runs from Atlanta to Chattanooga and is still owned by the state of Georgia today. So technically, yes, Georgia does own land in Tennessee, not including Neyland Stadium. And they currently lease that line out to CSX. And that line is also home to a famous story from the Civil War. Some of you may have heard of it, and that would be the Great Locomotive Chase. Such a famous story from that time that it has been adapted into many Hollywood films, including Buster Keaton's silent film The General, and one of Walt Disney's lesser-known films from the 1950s titled The Great Locomotive Chase, starring Fess Parker.
Hey, look, there's 8669. Hey, look, it's 8669. And 913, 578. Hey, that's one they haven't repainted yet. 71,000. Wait, no, 7,100.
Oh, that's new. That's very new.
Yeah. Oh, hey, there's 2594.
They've done a lot of remodeling.
Yeah. Dude, it's
And
2594.
this you see on the right of the train.
Oh, hey, it's a Baldwin switcher.
This is called Allied Metals. It's a zinc alloy factory. We do handle freight as well as passengers.
Dude, look at that thing. That looks
loads of
freaking
zinc we
awesome.
bring to the loading docks here at Allied, as well as pull the empty ones back out. Now, a brief history of the equipment you're riding on today. Starting at the front of the train, we have car number 857. A lightweight silver-sided streamlined car built in 1947 by one of the greatest car manufacturers of all time, the Budd Company. And it was built for the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac Railroad. Used on many New York to Florida trains, such as the West Coast Champion, the Havana Special, and the Silver Meteor.
Now we're in
It would later see service
837.
with Amtrak, hence the current red and blue interior of the car. The car was donated to us in 2011 by the then owners, the Blue Water chapter of the National Railway Historical Society. The 1000 in the middle of our train with those open windows is a heavyweight car built in 1925 by the Pullman Company for the Southern Railway. Used on many of their famous trains, such as the Southerner, the RailCamp, the Place de Leon, the Pelican, the Crescent, and so on. It was built with open windows and no AC. It was modernized in the 1930s, having the windows sealed shut and air conditioning installed. When the car was donated to us in the 60s, we reopened the windows and removed the AC to allow for a true 1920s experience. And finally, at the rear of the train, we have car number 661, a lightweight car built in 1947 by the American Car Foundry, or ACF, for the Central of Georgia Railroad, used on a passenger train named the Nancy Hanks 2, a train between Savannah and Atlanta on a daily basis. Now, we just crossed our third bridge over Tunnel Boulevard. Originally, that road would have tunneled underneath the railroad, hence the name. When the Southern Railway did abandon this line in the 50s, the roof of that tunnel was opened up to avoid maintenance costs. After the land was donated to us, we put a bridge over the gap, so today we have a Tunnel Boulevard without a tunnel. Speaking of tunnel, we're not making our climb up Missionary Ridge, but rather than travel over it, we're going to travel through it. Through the Missionary Ridge Tunnel, also known as the Whiteside Tunnel, named after Colonel James Whiteside. This tunnel is 986 feet long. It was completed in 1858 and was excavated entirely by pick and shovel, as dynamite was not invented until 1867. So I guess you could say it went off without a bang. This tunnel was excavated from both ends of the ridge, meeting in the middle. When both portals did meet in the middle, they were only off-center from one another by 3 inches. During World War II, this tunnel was seized many of the 70 trains a day. Now, this tunnel is the reason that this line was eventually abandoned. After World War II, the railway's equipment was becoming too large to fit into the pre-Civil War bottleneck, so that new line was built to the north and bypassed the ridge altogether. Now, for those of you in car number 1000 with those open windows, for your safety, please keep all body parts inside the train at all times while in the tunnel, as distance between us and the tunnel walls will be less than 1 foot at times. This tunnel crossed an ornamental lake to build over 160 years ago, and would hate for it to cost you an ornamental lake to travel through it, so please keep them in the train. If you have a flashlight app on your cell phone, I do encourage you to have those out at this time to shine them up against the windows and illuminate the tunnel walls as we pass through so you can view them. That was the horn of our locomotive you just heard, signaling our approach to the tunnel, meaning we'll be entering at any moment. So I hope no one on board is scared of the dark. If you are, too late. Just close your eyes.
Tunnel time in Tennessee.
As we exit the tunnel, this area on the right side of our train would have been the location for the control tower for this tunnel, called VM Tower. It's a 2- or 3-story structure which would have housed a controlman on the top floor, and from that tower he would have controlled switches and signals on either side of the tunnel. That would have allowed only one train to pass through the single-track tunnel on what was otherwise a double-track railroad at the time. From there, the trains would have continued on into downtown Chattanooga, where their final destination would have been Terminal Station, which has today been converted into the Chattanooga Choo Choo Hotel, named after the song made famous by Glenn Miller during World War II, the Chattanooga Choo Choo, the first song to ever receive the Golden Record. If you've never heard it, I do highly recommend giving it a listen. Now, in 1890, a freight train traveling east was approaching the tunnel portal that we just exited from. As that train was on the very spot we were on right now, the locomotive on that train exploded due to a low water situation, killing all members of the crew. That locomotive would be repaired and put back into service, and it has still survived today into the preservation era. You can currently find that locomotive on display in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, next to the Parkway, painted as the Dollywood Express number 107.
Dude, it's 107. I didn't know 107 exploded. Or should I say, it did a 520. For anyone who understands that, it's about... For anyone who doesn't understand that, it's about Pennsylvania Railroad 520. It exploded.
To a stop at our East Chattanooga Depot. As part of our tour as listed on your ticket. We'll have a 25-minute layover here at East Chattanooga where we'll have a turntable demonstration and back shop tour off the train. We do highly recommend everyone does join us off the train for this demonstration. This is one of the only places left in the world where you can still see what's about to take place. Keep in mind it is only the locomotive getting turned, not the car, so you will have to exit the train to witness this. We will also have a restroom available here at East Chattanooga if you need that. Just remain seated once we come to a stop. We'll let you know when it's safe to make your way to the exit. Once you do exit the train, just take a left turn. You can follow that pathway down to the turntable. And once we have everyone off the train, we will immediately begin the demonstration. Do keep in mind that this is an active rail yard here at East Chattanooga, so we do have a few rules for your safety. Rule number 1 is to please stay with the group at all times, as this is a guided tour, so please do not wander off. It is very easy to get lost out here. Rule number 2 is please stay on the paved pathways. Do not walk on any tracks, gravel, or balance for tripping hazards. Rule number 3 is please do not climb on any of the equipment around the property. As I said, this is an active rail yard, so this equipment may move at any time, and these are also historic artifacts as well. We're trying to preserve them, so please don't climb on them. And as weird as it may sound, it's also a fire hazard. Yes, that's right, because if you climb on that equipment, you'll probably fall off of it. I will probably laugh at you, and then I will probably get fired, so it is a fire hazard. And then finally, rule number 4, my favorite, is to have fun. Now, as we pull into the yard on the left side of our train, you'll be able to spot both of our operational steam locomotives. The first one you'll see will be the Southern Railway 630, built in 1904 by the American Locomotive Company as a mainline freight locomotive for the Southern Railway. It is the smaller of the two. It's also the oldest operating piece of equipment in our collection at 119 years old this year. And then the next one you'll see will be the Southern Railway 4501, built in 1911 by the Bald Locomotive Works, also as a mainline freight locomotive for the Southern Railway. Now, both of those locomotives are currently down for some minor repairs. We do normally operate them on Saturdays and Sundays, but those locomotives are both out of service until probably, we'll hopefully have one of them operating by this weekend. But again, both locomotives are down for some minor repairs. Now, once again, please remain seated. We'll let you know when it's safe to make your way to the exit. Welcome to East Chattanooga.
You're 6914.
You're 610.
Now the turntable is 80 feet long and it weighs in at 80 tons. Keep in mind the average school bus only weighs about 12 or 13 tons, your average car 1 or 2 tons. But that locomotive right there, it weighs in at 120 tons. So when it's on top of this turntable, the overall weight between the two will be sitting right at 200 tons. So it'll probably surprise you to know that this turntable wasn't originally turned by hand. It was an Armstrong table. There would have been poles extending off each end, and it would have taken, on average, 4 people to push those poles to spin the table around. And keep in mind, when they were turning it by hand, they were turning steam locomotives, not diesel locomotives. And just to give you an example, the 4501 over there, fully loaded with coal and water, just on its own is 215 tons. So it was nearly 300 tons they were turning by hand. But don't worry, I'm not about to ask for any volunteers. We don't do it that way anymore today. Instead, this turntable has been electrified. Don't worry about me, though. Electricity will not go through a bad conductor. Now, some of you got it. We'll be using a small 25 horsepower electric motor under the operator shed here. Our trainman Caleb will be operating. Now, you may be wondering, how do they turn that much weight by hand? Well, to do it by hand and even by motor still today, we have to ensure the table is balanced. As the locomotive gets centered on the table here over this 6-foot diameter bearing, as it does that, if you watch the far end of the table down here where I'll be at, you'll see it drop down by just a few inches. When it drops, we know the table is balanced. So essentially, when it drops, he stops. Now, the locomotive pulling our train today is the Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis Railway number 710, the NC and St. L 710 for short. It is the oldest of our operational diesel locomotives, having been built in 1950 by General Motors Electromotive Division, or EMD, for the Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis, which was a railroad that did run through Chattanooga, hence the name, although it did not go to St. Louis, which is weird why they named it that. But anyway, this locomotive was built as a model GP7, producing 1,500 horsepower. GP meaning general purpose. It could be used on any service, freight, passenger, and switching service, for example. It would later see service with a successor, Louisville and Nashville Railroad. It would be retired, though, following a head-on collision that suffered in Birmingham. After that, Amtrak would purchase the locomotive, they would repair it, and then upgrade it to a GP9, meaning its prime mover was replaced, and its power output increased to 1,750 horsepower. And they would use it in maintenance and way service. And then after Amtrak retired it, we acquired it here for the museum, restored it back to operating condition as well as to its original appearance, and we've been using it here ever since. Now, if you have a look up in the cab here, you'll see our engineer Joseph, who's responsible for operating the locomotive and getting us here and back safely today. So everyone go ahead and give him a wave. Now, while these are commonly referred to as a diesel locomotive, the correct term for these engines is actually diesel electric, meaning inside this engine there's a large 16-cylinder diesel engine turning a generator. That generator produces electricity, which is then fed down to the electric traction motors that sit on each axle of this locomotive. And it's those electric traction motors that are actually propelling the locomotive. Hence why they're called diesel electrics. You can think of them as a hybrid of sorts. Now, diesel locomotives have always been made that way, and that's the way they're still made today. The major difference between the locomotives built in 1950 and the ones being made today is that the modern engines have computer systems in them that produce much more power, they're much more fuel efficient, and the modern ones run on alternating current rather than direct current like this one. Now, the reason why these locomotives would go on to replace the steam locomotive was for nothing but money. Steam locomotives were just much more expensive all around to operate. When you factor in things such as your crew and labor costs, and maintenance and repair costs, fuel and water costs, and so on, compared to all that, these are just cheaper to run. So the railroad's purchase of these is nothing more than a cost-cutting measure. Now, while our train is still sitting over there by that depot on track number 1, we're going to line this locomotive up for track number 2, and that's so we can do what's called a runaround. What that means is the locomotive will go past our train on track number 2 and then do a switch. So we then reverse, do that switch back into track number 1 to recouple to the opposite end of the train. So what was the front will become the back and vice versa for the return trip. Now that we have the locomotive lined up for track number 2, for those of you that would like to see our back shop where our restorations take place, you can follow me. We'll just head right back this direction towards our train. Before we get there, we'll take a right turn over that small crossing and head to that large building in the distance. Now, those of you that don't want to see the back shop, can feel free to reboard the train at any time. There is a restroom on the other side of the tracks, but like I said, if you do want to see that back shop, you can just follow me.